of documents in the informational items.
Do members have any questions about any of the items under number 4? Need any clarification? Really? We're doing that good? Okay. All right, we'll move it along then. We'd be at revised financial policies. Could I get a motion to put this on the floor, please? Thank you, Mr. Fennell, and a second from Ms. Daly. Mr. Sorrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as part of our annual budget process, we review the financial policies that are in place of the county board, and we've got one recommendation this year, and I'm going to have Heather walk through that for you. Sorry, Julie's going to do that.
I thought the same thing.
Just as Phil get that working, I will come up here. Thank you, Chairman. We have two financial revisions, policy revisions before you today. One is a policy revision for the fund balance policy for the risk reserves. We should have had this last year, but we did not. Since this fund is now primarily funded by property taxes, we need it to be at 24% to be consistent with all the other funds that are property tax supported. The second one is really to help the finance department. Every year at year end, we always get questions on what is a prepaid expense. And even though this could be covered under GAAP, which is generally accepted accounting principles, we do have a definition in here. There's nothing fancy other than a definition. The only thing that is specific for Peoria County is that we have the limit at $5,000. So if anything is not going to hit a prepaid at the end of the year by $5,000, we'll just expense that. For example, something that would be a prepaid that we do often is pay like subscription fees for ERP. So we have now a cloud-based system. So that contract we pay up front for the entire year. Part of it is for the current year, part of it is for the next year. And so we have those expenses in which year they should be incurred. A minor example that we're going to get rid of are membership fees. Like for instance, costs about, let's say, $150 to be participating in a GFOA membership, which is my professional organization. We don't need to put $50 in one year, $100 in another. So we really try and limit what is not material to any fund. So it's really to give it a definition and then to do a threshold to actually give meaning behind what we put in the prepaid. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Questions? Oh, come on. This is the good stuff. All right. Seeing none. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Fennell.
Did you come up with these decisions, or did some of it come from outside audit, or was it a combination?
It was a combination. The definition and the threshold, we talked to our auditors, and it was based on our discretion, and $5,000 will be sufficient. The majority of the funds that would have prepaid expenses, this is well below the materiality.
Any other questions? I just want to ask, did we supply the county's auditor a copy of what we're discussing today?
Nothing that is beyond what was publicly available, no, sir.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the revised policies as submitted, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Then I will count that as unanimous. I'm just going to ask Mr. Fennell to cover these next 4 items because we co-chair this meeting. So, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Annual authorization for year-end transfers. Could I have a motion, please? Ms. Blair, Betty over there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution that we bring before you as part of the budget process every year. This really addresses period 13 cleanup changes throughout the year end. So happy to answer any questions, but it's something that's pretty straightforward, and this body has adopted for longer than I've been here.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Second motion or resolution is an abatement of the bond tax levy of 2020B, previously 2010F, and 2022, previously 2011 bonds. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Ricker and Phil.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is when the situation warrants it. This is something that you do each year as part of the budget process. What this resolution does is it says for the 2020B bonds, those are the refunding or the refinanced Peoria Riverfront Museum construction bonds, and the 2022 bonds, which are the refunding or refinanced nursing home bonds. This says that you have an adequate alternate revenue source to make the bond payment in FY23. That's because and as a result, you do not have to levy in our debt service levy to make these bond payments. So for the museum bonds, the alternate revenue source is the public facility sales tax. And the alternate revenue source for the nursing home bonds is the voter-approved dedicated nursing home property tax levy. So even though we're paying the bond, making the bond payment with property taxes, it's an alternate revenue source outside of our debt service levy. Everybody understand that? Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Sorrell. Any questions, anyone? Please vote. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Approval of the annual tax levy ordinance. Could I have a motion, please?
So,
Betty again. Thank you. And Phil, thank you.
all right, Mr. Chairman, based on discussion, I would recommend that you entertain a substitute motion to defer this item and actually the next item, which you'll probably need to do in a separate vote, to 5 p.m. on October 13th, which is when we'll schedule a special committee meeting of this joint committee to take up these two ordinances.
Okay. Someone amend the motion, Paul? And there's a second? Sharon? So we'll vote on the amendment first and then the motion. Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now on the original motion, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, as amended. And the last item, we will do the same thing. We'll read it off, have a motion, and then we will probably amend this one also. So this one is the FY 2023 Annual Appropriation and Budget Ordinance. Could I have a motion, please? Paul and Eden. Could I have an alternate motion, please, to hear this on the 5 o'clock on the 10th? Paul? And
It's the 13th.
it's the 13th. I'm sorry, 13th, not the 10th, the 13th. And Sharon.
Mr. Fennel, could I just, for the purpose of the record, this is so we could further discuss the request from the VAC.
Right.
Okay. Just want to make sure everybody knows what we're talking about.
Thank you for the record. All right. On the alternate, please vote aye if you're in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Now on the motion as amended, please vote aye for all those in favor. Aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Okay, discussion on ethics ordinance.
Could we get a motion to approve? Thank you, Ms. Daly. And then a second? All right. It's just discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was a resolution. No wonder half of you looked at me funny. The other half were hoping somebody would help me out. Ms. Daly, welcome. Thank you for all your work on this. I defer to you.
Well, I appreciate your willingness to consider the ethics ordinances for Peoria County government, Chairman Rand. And as you may know, members Groves Allison and Renault and I have been receiving ethics training and certification on an annual basis for well over a decade. The state of Illinois adopted ethics statutes in 2003, which provide good guidelines regarding how we all preserve taxpayer/voter confidence in trust that we are working in the best interests of the public and conducting business as public servants. I thank Mr. Sorrell for reviewing the ethics ordinances of more than 6 other Illinois counties and drafting the document that you have before you for consideration. I was able to speak to each of you, except one person, about the concept of ethics ordinances and learned that there is agreement that we should proceed with a discussion about these ordinances. And my goal is for the discussion of this draft, which we can agree on, that will be guidelines for all of us who are conducting Peoria County government business.
Comments? Miss Dr. Blair, sorry.
I'm in support of an ethics ordinance. I think that's something that helps give expectations of appropriate behavior and can also be used when those expectations are not met. All I would ask is that if we decide to do this, that we should also budget for appropriate training for it as well, just like you guys go through.
Thank you. Other comments? Well, I'd like to say this is something that Linda has pursued to try to make us better role models, and I don't think there's anybody in the room that needs to be a better role model than you are now. I think this is about today forward. Also, her strength of experience working on behalf of many people in Springfield and for many of our local legislators, probably a bit of an overstatement, our local legislators. She's made it clear to me over the course of the many years I've known her that this is a gap. And I think it's high time that we help her close this loophole and set a standard that all of us can live by and should live by. So congratulations to you on getting this done in record time just before I left. And I'm very, very, very proud of your work. So, having given you some accolades, let me jump to committee agendas. Does anybody need to leave early, chairpersons? If not, I'll take them in the order I see them. Mr. Renault, welcome. County Health.
Operation, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. County Health, yes. Ms. Williams.
Thank you. We had no resolutions, but just an overview of the Health Committee budget. There's an increase of 2 positions. A 1/2 position, Headington Oaks was eliminated, which was in finance. 2.5 positions for the health department, which will be grant funded. And just as an FYI, the departments that we oversee are the Regional Office of Education, the Health Department, the Care and Treatment Board, and Sustainability Department.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Williams? You know why we have an attorney sit up here with me is to make sure I call the correct committee chair, so thank you. Now, Special County Operations, Mr. Renault.
Thank you, sir. We did approve the operations budget with the caveat that we would, during the rollover appropriations in March, we would include $1,000 for training for the animal control officers. Becky had forgot to put that in, so we want to make sure that they have that training. So the caveat would be that $1,000 would be appropriated to them in March with the rollover. We had 2 resolutions. One was the staffing count, and we added 1.5 FTEs. One of them was the transfer of one of the positions that was in the auditor's office over to the highway department. And I don't recall what the other 0.5 was.
It would have been how we allocate for the communications staff person, half of it, moving it from solid waste management to be split equally now between the sheriff's office and county administration.
That's right. Thank you. It also includes a transfer over of an FTE to work with our new diversity, equity, and inclusion officer. So it would be an FTE to work under that position. The second one. Sorry. Health insurance. Thank you. Somehow my page got switched. So we voted and approved the healthcare premiums for the next year, which does include another. Help me out here again. My subsidy. Thank you. My brain is done for the day. Yeah. So it includes another subsidy of $255,000.
Few too many fingerprints last night, huh?
It's something.
All right, any questions for Mr. Renault? I thought, and I was listening from my lurch at my office yesterday, the discussion on the health insurance was informative and very instructive. While it was lengthy, it was comprehensive, and I enjoyed the update.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate the efforts that Member Daly joined me for with Unlin and Companies and administration to do the deep dive into healthcare premiums.
It's not as obvious how it works, especially to the users. Any other questions then for Mr. Renault before I go to Phil? And I know Phil's got a few resolutions to talk about. Phil?
Thank you, and bear with me. I'll try and get these as quickly as I can for you. Our very first resolution, it's already paid for. These are a bunch of projects that we've been waiting for, and we had to hire an engineering firm to, of course, handle this situation. This was Midwest, and they're going to do some work with Scott because there was a lot of suggestions made by our committee of what to look for in some of these. We're talking about 2 courthouse projects. One has to do with our 2 roofs down here, and the other one has to do with some plaza steps being replaced. Out at the jail, we've got, I think, 4 different things: tuck pointing, and of course, that roof out there at the jail, as well as there's some concrete problems at the back door. And then, of course, we still have the ring road. So we need to have some discussion Scott will have with the engineers as they look at some of these situations. The JDC, which has needed a roof for some time, and then they've got their center parking lot. So those are some of the items. The amount of money that we are paying Midwest is $388,500. But those alternative suggestions made by the committee members are going to be discussed by Scott with Midwest. We've got the next 2 are both resurfacing situations. One is on Cameron Road, and that is from 116 to Smithville. And that particular road carries like 3,100 vehicles. It's extremely important to those in the transportation of grain, especially like right now. And what they're going to do, they mean our highway department, they're going to apply for a federal surface transportation block grant. And we will have a matching, we will match it with $260,000. The second application, which is item number 3 there, Kerner Road, which is going to be from Charter Oak Road to Route 8. And they will make they will again apply to the for the block grant through the Federal Service Transportation, and we will have a matching if we would receive that at $134,000. Now, it was also explained to us by Jeff Gillis that we can't get both of these. In other words, if our needs would be ranked as number 1 and number 2, we would have to make a decision of which one we really wanted to accept. They would not give us both resurfacing grants. The next one doesn't cost us anything because basically, as it says here, the area of Old Galena Road, which you've heard much about. Well, the engineering firm up there, Midwest, is asking that they be allowed to have 2 subcontractors to handle this situation, and we are nearing the end of this, and we soon will be putting it to rest. So we are giving them the right to have 2 sub-consultants. I may have said contractors, I meant consultants. Let's see. Resolution number 5. Out in, I think it's Mr. Windish's area, but this is scheduled for, I think, the letting November the 18th. And it has to do with putting in and fixing a culvert out in the Elmwood area on Graham Chapel Road. And this money is going to come out of the bridge fund. Eventually we will get federal funds on this, and it'll be an 80-20 project. I think it's going to cost us $180,000. And let's see. Our annual maintenance application for the bid on a number of things that we will be needing for the highway department, and they list a lot of those different things, and it'll come out of the motor fuel tax, and this resolution, of course, is, like I said, it's our annual needs, and actually our highway department's been very, very responsible, and they generally just buy what they really need. So rest assured, they will not be going overboard. The next one, we need an engineering firm again. Hanson is who we're going to use in this for both phase 1 and 2, and it's the rehabbing of a bridge, which I think Mr. Gillis and others went out there on Duncan Road. And this is out in the Princeville. It's kind of northwest of Princeville, up towards the edge of our county. And this project will not be completed until about 2024, but we need to prepare for this. And our source of this is going to be $198,000, and that too will come out of the bridge fund to repair many of the beams and so forth. and other things that are needed. The overall project is looked at about $1 million, and we will have federal funds available for us on this matter. And our last resolution has to do with the engineer's salary, which is a annual salary that we share with the state. And the state has a program in which they will pay 50% of our engineer Amy's salary. There's, I believe it's out of the 102 counties, 99 counties in our state, only Lake and DuPage and Cook are the only ones that do not participate in it. Now the state will come in. I won't say they'll come in, but they will evaluate Amy and see how she qualifies and so forth. And if she meets their standards, which she ordinarily does, then they'll pay 50% of it, and that means that out of the $138,000, we will share in half of that, 138,400. I kind of round figures, and don't always give you the exact down to the penny and so forth. And out of that, then of course we would pay $68,200 for her. Pardon me, $69,200 for her. My math wasn't very good. Any questions for him, Mr.?
Bet you could name the presidents in reverse order, though.
Oh.
Any questions for Mr. Salzer?
I wish Mr. Windish and Mr. Elsesser were here, because both those bridge projects are in their area, and I wanted to ask them if they really, appreciate us helping those people out in our county.
All right, since there are no questions for Phil, I'll move on to Mr. Ricker's committee.
Okay, Ways and Means. We went through the budget book as all the other committees. The only two notable items just to raise to the attention here was under county treasurer, we did approve the budget to add us an employee, an FTE. So that was one, and I think our treasurer is here. So that the second one was the Veterans Assistance Commission asked for an increased budget with the ask that they would hire 2 additional people and then have some other expenditure in that. So we had discussions over that. The resolutions, we had one resolution. We had the monthly delinquent taxes, which we did have a modification to. One of the tax buyers, after they had won the tax buyers, has deceased. And so after review, we took that one off the list to let the treasurer and the state's attorney take the appropriate action with that property, and then we approved the remainder of the list. Those were the items.
Thank you. Members have any questions for Mr. Ricker? Seeing none, we'll move on to Mr. Tillman.
Land use, basically we approved a $600,000 budget in about 2.5 minutes. So it had, actually the budget's down $1,500 from last year. So we had no resolutions this month, but we will have some next month. I know we have a solar farm coming back and some more Airbnbs, so be prepared for that. And then just quick question, and I should have said this earlier. I want to thank Linda for her time and effort on that resolution for the ethics, but did you say when it would be coming to us as an actual ordinance, or is this something that you can do as management, or do we?
A great question, Mr. Dillon. And it's one of the 3 items I actually have for miscellaneous, but I'll do it right now since you asked. A couple things. It is in draft form, so if committee members do have suggestions or feedback, I would ask that you get that to either Ms. Daly or myself by the board meeting, because we'll put the packets for the next round of committees together the week after the board meeting. So please get any changes that you'd like to see to us by the board meeting. And I'll also put a reminder to that effect in the weekly update this Friday. Secondly, this is a proposed ordinance to the Peoria County Code of Ordinances. So it is not an administrative function. This is an actual ordinance, the same way the liquor ordinance is an ordinance, the same way a raffle ordinance is an ordinance, and the same way the zoning ordinance is a zoning ordinance. So it would be a part of the county code.
And I know we had a lot of work to staff and you, Scott, but I appreciate your professionalism. I know between Linda contacting counties and staff probably contacting, it was no easy task to get all that information. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Any questions for the committee chair?
Are you, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Phil.
are you through with the committees?
No, I still got kind of like a couple here.
Okay. I wanted them.
Okay. Mr. Rosenbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was telling Scott we're going to probably have a fairly short meeting if we got through the budget, and it's probably the longest one I've had since I've been on the board when I've been a chairman. So we went over the budget like everybody else. Of course, ours is one of the bigger ones. We had the sheriff come up, and we had the state's attorneys come up, and we had Gabe come up from the judicial part and explain some of the stuff for us. They all did a wonderful job. I noticed everybody's telling how many FTEs they have. I didn't write them down. We've got a bunch of them that are hoping to get. The sheriff was fortunate enough to hire some more people, and he's hoping to get some more. So he's closing his gap of being short on staff, and we're all thrilled about that. The only resolution we had, the sheriff would like to purchase another K-9 dog and have another unit. They're using the drug forfeiture fund for it, so it's not coming out of the general fund. It's about $15,000. Half of it's for training, half of it I believe is for the dog. It comes from Germany, that we found out, and I believe a guy comes over from Germany to help you with it. Oh, you've got, okay, but so we're going to have a new immigrant citizen on our force. So it's a female dog this time. They said it works better. It'll be more for the hardcore drugs, cannabis. They won't train it for it since it's not illegal anymore. But he also explained that as another. His guys, that's I don't know whether, I wouldn't say it's a perk, but that's what a lot of them would like to be able to get that one, that's the kind of stuff that a lot of the officers go for, that kind of being able to have that. So it was very encouraging. And that pretty well takes care of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenbaum. Any questions for the committee chair? I think we were in executive session to go through the pending litigation, so we won't need that. Let me go to Mr. Salzer.
Mr. Chairman, I want to go back. I was thinking too much about those darn resolutions and so forth. Our committee also covered the budget, and we especially were appreciative of Scott and his staff for putting it all together. That's a tremendous job, as I can see. I don't always look for a whole year of items, of course, that we're going to have to deal with, but I'm better off just dealing with the monthly meetings for me to understand.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Scott. We'd be at miscellaneous. I think Mr. Sorrell had some comments first.
I'm happy to go either first or last. Your pleasure, Mr. Chairman.
Go first.
Okay. So just a couple of things for the committee members. I already talked about the ethics ordinance. Second, just to remind you of a component of your rules of order as it relates to individual members seeking an amendment to the recommended budget. Your deadline to do that is 5 p.m. on Monday. You need to submit that to both Mr. Fennell and myself if any board member wants to initiate on their own an amendment to the recommended budget. Obviously, whatever discussion the committee has at 5 o'clock next Thursday is not bound by that rule because it was a committee decision to defer those two action items. Lastly, and I'll probably say it again next Thursday when we go through the high-level review of the recommended budget. This year's process could not have been done as well as it was without several folks that I would appreciate taking a moment to thank. First and foremost, the finance team, that's Heather and Julie. They do a fantastic job in making sure all the coordination is done, all the offices and departments have their numbers in the finance software. What you don't see, you see them on a regular basis. Who you don't see is Wade. Wade is our one and only team member that does payroll, so he does all the personnel budgeting for the year and gets those numbers out to the offices and departments, and then works whenever an office or department has a deviation from what the baseline is. The book looks put together and pretty because Shelby, who is our accounts payable person, is doing all the behind-the-scenes work in terms of the actual Excel spreadsheets that once we extract the numbers from the finance software and the Word documents that actually make the document what it is. And then on the administration side, Shauna and Gretchen. Gretchen is in charge of all the graphic design and the cover. Shauna, obviously as the assistant, plays an integral role in all those processes as well. Second, all of the elected and appointed officials this year, very easy conversations to have as it relates to budget this year. Everybody stayed on task. Nobody went super crazy in terms of what their requests were. And those conversations and those meetings were very easy to have. And then lastly, all of you actually were very well engaged this year, more so than past years, and had really great questions when I met with each and every one of you, or those that I was able to meet with. So thank you for being engaged and actually reading the book. That is a testament to your dedication to this body, this unit of government, and the taxpayers that we all serve. And that, Mr. Chairman, is all I have.
Thank you. Members? Dr. Blair.
2:30 Friday in the little room, 402. The Advisory Committee for Entrepreneurship and Small Business will be meeting to discuss the rules for the micro grants that we would like to give out to invest in our county members. Next year, if you have any input, you are welcome to come to the open meeting or let me know before we set those rules.
That's Tuesday, this coming Friday?
It's Friday at 2:30.
Did I say Tuesday?
You said 2, yeah.
Thank you. This Friday at 2:30. Anyone else? Mr. Rosenbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to thank Scott because Brandy and I, we gave him a long meeting. I think it's the longest we've ever had. It was over 2 hours going over that budget and that, but he's very, very thorough just for our part, going over it to make sure we both understood the whole thing. So we really appreciate you taking the time on that. And Linda, I want to thank you for the ethic draft or everybody that's worked on it. It's better that we have something before we have a problem to implement it, so that way we can be ahead of anything. So thank you again for spearheading that, and that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'd be adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.